So Gateway 1, as I mentioned earlier, is enacted under the planning legislation. So the building safety regulator is not interested in Gateway 1 at all. They're only interested in Gateway 2 and 3. But as part of Gateway 1, we must present a fire statement with our full planning application. So this is putting a lot of pressure on fire engineers, and we're finding they're getting very busy. But it is something that actually we would have done anyway. So as a designer of residential buildings, fire safety is sort of imperative to the design. So we've always done that, but now it's something that we must do in a specific format. Gateway 2. So as we've spoken quite a lot about this today, Gateway 2 is the submission of the drawings to prove compliance with the regulations that need to go to the building safety regulator for the 12-week review period. But as we did sort of allude to earlier, is it going to be 12 weeks? If we look at the planning system, which should be 12 weeks to go through the planning applications, it's never 12 weeks now. So is that going to have an impact on the building safety regulators as well? And from an architect's perspective, I sort of alluded to it earlier, but for us, design is an iterative process, and it's best delivered sequentially, as when we design one package, it interfaces and informs on the next package. But now we have to, for the Gateway 2 submission, make the submission as a complete pack. So this is where we need to understand all the design elements, and this goes back to what Paul and Douglas were saying about understanding the systems. We need to, as architects, understand them really early on to make sure that we can submit a complete pack of information for Gateway 2. So it really is about collaboration between all the different parts and early collaboration. And this is sort of reiterating it. So for some packages to be complete, we need to some specialist input and manufacturer select assistance. We need all of that. So we need to discuss this at RIBA stage 3 so that we can program it in to RIBA stage 4. And as we spoke about principal designers earlier, so as part of the Building Safety Act, every building now needs a principal designer. However, for high risk buildings, HRBs, I have heard them referred to as high-rise buildings, but it is higher risk buildings, the principal designer needs enhanced competencies. And the RIBA are actually putting together a list of accredited principal designers that can work on higher risk buildings. So it's really about that competency and making sure that the team around you, which we spoke about earlier, is the right team. And the principal designer will want to review your Gateway 2 submission before it's gone to the building safety regulator. It's also important to note that the responsibility for the compliance rests with the person carrying out the work, not the building safety regulator. So it rests with us as designers. Even if the building safety regulator has signed it off and said it's okay, we are the ones that need to ensure the compliance, and we will be the ones that are liable. So it's putting a lot more onus on us as designers, and again it's going back to that competency and having the right people around us to make sure that we're all working together to achieve the right product. So if we start with construction management, so this is just a very simplified design program of how the production could work. So working with the design packages and then getting earlier involvement from the specialists. You can see there in the diagram. And then we go to the Building Safety Act principal designer, who is a third party who will check and submit the drawings. It then goes to the building safety regulator, the 12-week review starts, and then we can start on site. So if we look at a design and build single stage tender, so you've got your consultant designing or developing the drawings to a stage 3 plus stage 4. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but then you go to tender, contractor is appointed, contractor then completes the design to get to Gateway 2 with the consultants. It then goes to the principal designer to review, building safety regulator, review period, and then start on site. If we look at design and build 2-stage tender, which is I think what most of us are alluding to today, is that as consultants we develop the drawings to stage 2, stage 3, we get early contractor input at stage 3, that's informing our details, informing the design, making sure we're choosing the correct systems, making sure we're choosing the correct materials. Then contractor is appointed fully, completes the design, and so goes on, principal designer, building safety review, and then start on site. I think it's also important to note here that I did mention earlier that our understanding is that the building safety regulator, if you want to change a material later on, will not accept a change in material just based on cost, even if the performance is exactly the same. So it's really imperative that we all collaborate together to make sure that we get to a point that we're not going to require any changes. And if we do require changes, everything on site stops until the building safety regulator has reviewed it, approved it, and then we can start again. So there's a huge potential for delays, but if we can work together, and I think that's the thing that's really important, is that this is affecting all of us, and the only way we're going to get through this and navigate it is working together and not against each other. What does this mean for the future? So in summary, I think what we're all talking about today is competency is key, and making sure that we have the right people around us and that we as professionals actually understand what we're talking about, what we're doing, all the regulations, making sure that we're up to scratch on everything that's coming out. But stepping away from procurement and building, I just wanted to highlight a few points which I think personally this new Building Safety Act isn't addressing. So we have a housing crisis in the UK, and now is not the time to inhibit innovation and drive the fear of single stair buildings, which is what we spoke about earlier, because we have a whole stock of single stair buildings. What is happening to them? And when I talk about innovation, we not only do we have a housing crisis, we also have a huge sustainability crisis. And we've got to also remember that in amongst the safety of buildings, we've got this challenge for sustainable buildings. And the only way, in my opinion, that we're going to get to carbon zero in 2030, 2050, whatever the goalpost is now, because it's changing, is through innovation. And we need to make sure that all these regulations allow us to be innovative as designers and actually address safety, sustainability and quality. And with the single stair buildings, as I mentioned earlier, risk should be considered holistically and proportionally. And the staircase is only a small part of the building. And you've got sprinklers, you've got evacuation, lifts, you've got all of these things that need to be thought about holistically. And we shouldn't be just politically saying, add another second stair in, everything's going to be great, building safe, because in reality, it probably isn't. And one of my biggest pet hates at the moment is the redesign of course, putting staircases just anywhere in that course and saying it's safe, where in reality, what you need is a true second means of escape. So as you come out of your apartment, you need to be able to choose right or left, not right and then there's two stairs. So it's about really making sure that we're not just listening to the media and doing what they think we want to do, but actually understanding it properly. And then finally, there is a bit of a contradiction going on at the moment, because from the planning side, they really want us to design dual aspect apartments. Now, however, when you add a second stair and additional circulation, it becomes very difficult to actually design true dual aspect apartments.